Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday, where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Good for Bitcoin. My name is Brandon, a social media manager at Trust Machines, joined by my co-host, Kate. Happy Friday, Kate.
Happy Friday, Brandon. Happy Friday to everybody tuning in. How are we doing
How was
this
your week?
It was a good week.
You first.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it was a fun week. We started off the week with the Stacks Bitcoin DeFi webinar, which was pretty fun. I chatted about Leather and native stacking. You chatted about Granite. In the world of Bitcoin, it's been a little bit slow, I would say, but it's been fun over here on Stacks. So
Totally. Yeah, a bit of a slow news week. It was a short week in the US anyway. We had Labor Day, so to me it felt like a long week, even though it was like technically a shorter week. But yeah, not a ton of news. We got some cool stuff to talk about, especially in the Stacks world that happened this week. But yeah, the webinar was a lot of fun. I think you can go to the Stacks YouTube channel if you want to watch that. I think we're going to be reposting our own clips from it as well.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it went well. I actually had somebody DM me the other day that like caught it and was like asking for like some advice on like getting acclimated into Stacks, like what's the cheapest way to, get some SBTC and AEUSDC and all that stuff.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was a great message, because I feel like it helps us figure out where the biggest pain points are for people coming into the Stacks ecosystem, is like, where do they drop off because of friction or whatever it is, and it just helps us build better products or like a better onboarding experience. So that was a pretty cool message to receive.
Yeah, I think like overall, like just liquidity is super important, right? To get into the ecosystem, like to get in cheaply, you need liquidity. Otherwise it's like very expensive with fees and just all like trading fees and transaction fees and bridging fees and all that stuff. So I think even at like a couple months from now, once Stacks gets like that tier 1 stablecoin that they've been talking about, and I think probably within the next few months, we'll maybe not have an SBTC cap anymore, or at least it'll be raised even more. Just that friction, like you said, is going to go away pretty quickly. I think by the end of the year, a lot of that stuff will have been addressed, and it'll just be a very, very different experience for everybody that's trying to enter.
Yeah. Well, if you still want to go check it out, like you said, it is on Stacks X page and on the YouTube page. You can check out the first one. And then they have 2 more coming up. I think it's like a weekly 3-week series. So next week, September 9th, there's the Stacks Bitcoin DeFi Strategies. I think it's just, the first one was more basics. This one's like a little bit more intermediate. And then the following week on September 16th is the Advanced DeFi Strategies.
Might have to tune into that one.
Yeah, me too. Get the real alpha.
Yeah. I also spoke with Eric at Hero on his Dev and Tell show this week. We had, I think, close to an hour and a half long conversation.
Oh, wow.
On my Ordinals website that I coded, I guess, even though, a lot of what I was talking about was like, I'm not a developer, and it's really kind of surreal to be on a show like this where I'm talking about this thing that I built, or I don't consider myself a developer at least. But with like all these AI tools now, like anybody can become a developer, and you can just build things now.
Yep.
So it was really cool. I think my favorite part was Eric brought out this this tool that he uses to make flowcharts. So we were like literally like flowcharting the structure of how it was all, how each inscription was interacting with each other inscription, and it was it was cool. Like it still is kind of like complicated. I was explaining, like, even for me, whenever I need to make an update to it, I'm like having to like reference my own guides that I wrote about it, because like it can get complicated quickly.
Yeah.
Sort of, with all the way that like the relationship is between all the different inscriptions and the different SAT numbers that you need to reinscribe on a specific SAT number in order for things to work and stuff. And so it can get, a little complicated, but I think, yeah, with like things like flow charting it and stuff, I think helped a lot with breaking it down and trying to somewhat make it a little easier to understand how it worked. But there's a lot of, it was a good combo.
It's definitely like learning a language, right? If you're not using it often, it's very easy to forget the steps of the process. So it's very smart of you to actually make yourself a guide.
I knew that I would need it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to remember how to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Another really big piece of news from Orange Domains, .locker has announced an integration with ENS, which is very cool. So you now have one domain that can be used on Web2, BNS, and ENS through .locker. So this is following a DAO vote on the ENS DAO side of things. There already was a .locker ENS TLD that existed, but it was transferred to the Orange Domains team to enable this integration. And just a cool quote from them says, this transfer turns domains like name.locker into fully functional ENS names operated by Orange Domains and distributed through familiar platforms like GoDaddy and Namecheap. And to me, it just is more, excuse for people to check out BNS, right? For anybody that is on ENS, they might not be aware of BNS. Now, if they're signing up for .locker, they're like, what is this BNS thing? What is the difference there? And then they can kind of go down the rabbit hole. So very cool to go cross chain there. And yeah, like it's one domain to rule them all.
Yeah, I love it. Congrats to the team. I feel like that is a huge integration to complete. And yeah, you're right. I think it's just like a great bridge to the BNS world.
Well, let's get into some public company news. There's a lot of it this week.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'll kick us off. So we have the one we all know about, MetaPlanet. They bought another 1,009 Bitcoin. They now hold 20,000. That's pretty huge. It puts them in the 6th largest Bitcoin holder, which is awesome. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think they flipped like a mining company like Riot or somebody like that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Sora Ventures, which is a crypto venture fund, they have unveiled Asia's first $1 billion Bitcoin Treasury fund, starting with $200 million in commitments. Goal is to push crypto adoption and position Bitcoin as a strategic asset, bridging TradFi and digital markets. So more Bitcoin buys on the way, potentially.
Huge. We have Good Old Strategy. They bought another 4,048 Bitcoin. That brings... I feel like this number's not accurate. We might need to update that. 63,000? I think they have way more than that.
Let me let's check good old Bitcoin treasuries. Oh yeah, it's 636, not 363.
Okay.
The dyslexia talking.
That's so funny. Yeah, so that brings their total to 636,505 Bitcoin.
Crazy.
Which we've already talked about is more than 3% of the supply at this point. It's just wild numbers.
Yeah. I also saw in the news this week, one of their like levers that they're using, it's called like STRC, I think is the ticker. It's like something that like yields like it has like a 9% like dividend on it or something. And then they like raised it this week to 10%. So they're trying to like get more people to buy it basically, so that they can then use the proceeds from that to buy more Bitcoin. That's just like one of the various methods that they use to acquire all this Bitcoin. So yeah, they're not slowing down. Next one is really big because it's kind of a little bit closer to us. Netherlands-based Bitcoin treasury company Treasury, their name is Treasury, has launched with a 1,000 BTC purchase. They are aiming to become Europe's largest Bitcoin treasury company.
Yeah, this is awesome. So this was backed by the Winklevoss twins, Nakamoto, which is led by David Bailey. And yeah, it hits close to home because our very own Zest in the Stacks ecosystem, Tycho, is also involved in this. So very, very cool.
Yeah, Tycho had a really great thread about the announcement. I wanted to read just like a couple of excerpts from it. So the CEO of Treasury is King Oe. Hoping I am pronouncing that correctly. Approached him earlier this summer to help out with the effort, Tycho. After sounding it out with Zest's largest stakeholders like Manib and Maxime, who's at Draper Capital, we saw that a treasury company could be a huge catalyst for Zest protocol growth. He said, "Our thesis is that Bitcoin treasury companies will play a leading role in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Any project building on Bitcoin would benefit from as close proximity to these companies as possible. Treasury can compound hugely with our ongoing efforts at Zest, Stacks, and Stacking DAO. Polymarkets are the new trenches, and with a firm foot in both, we will win. And then he went on to say the plan is to become the first European Bitcoin treasury company listed on a major European exchange. No other European Bitcoin treasury company has been able to pull this off yet, with all of them listed on low volume exchanges. He also went into a little bit more detail on how like the capital market structure works in Europe. I guess there's just a lot of money on the sidelines basically that are waiting for something like this to enter like a major European exchange. So he's, very bullish on once that does happen, there'll be a lot of capital that's kind of ready to jump into something like this, which is very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I read somewhere, I think David Bailey was probably just talking about it. He wants to basically have a listing on all public markets. So that's going to be like a global effort. So obviously this one is Netherlands based, but I'm really interested to see who will do it first in Canada, like the Canadian Treasury company. I've heard sort of rumblings about it on crypto Twitter. I just don't think there's been any major action towards it. But yeah, that would be cool to see. And again, congrats to Tycho. I think he's going to be the head of Bitcoin Strategy. It looks like his kind of title at the Treasury. But it'll be cool to see, eventually, maybe in time, if this translates into any institutional adoption of Stacks and what happens there. But I think their focus is really just Bitcoin accumulation at this point.
100%. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I think we've talked about this. There's a lot of regulatory and legal reasons why one of these Bitcoin treasury companies can't just convert all their, stuff to SBTC and start aping, degenning into things. They need to be very, very, very conservative with what they're doing with that Bitcoin. So, this doesn't mean that they're going to deposit all that Bitcoin onto Stacking DAO on day one. But, we can dream, right? Maybe in the future something will happen. But yeah, congrats to Tycho. He, Zest originally spun out of Trust Machines. So Tycho also a Trust Machines alum. So we're super happy for him. And yeah, very cool. We'll of course continue to track it like we do all the other public companies out there. But one other thing that I thought was interesting is Treasury has also entered an agreement to acquire Bitcoin Amsterdam, which is the Amsterdam conference that happens, like the Bitcoin conference in Amsterdam that happens every year. That's happening this November, so just in a couple of months. So Treasury, I guess, is now the owner of that conference, which is very cool. Because that's a revenue stream for them.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah. Next up, this is less public company news, but I thought this was interesting. So on-chain sleuths at Arkham have uncovered a $700 million Bitcoin stash that belongs apparently to the UAE, which was mined at a massive site outside of Abu Dhabi. So I think it was a few weeks ago we talked JD Vance was it JD Vance, or maybe it was one of the Trump sons, or somebody was talking about the fact that there's a major country out there that already is acquiring a huge amount of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they were talking about them. I don't know. But it just shows that, a lot of these companies, or excuse me, a lot of these countries, they might be acquiring Bitcoin, but not necessarily buying it, right? In this case, they're mining it. So they can be a little quieter about their acquisition, and they can just sort of quietly accumulate more Bitcoin and not make too much noise unless Arkham Intelligence discovers them, I guess. But pretty cool.
That's huge. That's got to put them up there with one of the top sort of government holdings, I would say. It's sometimes hard to do the conversion of amount of Bitcoin to fiat dollars when the numbers are that big.
Yeah. I think there was I think it was Blockspace that did a deep dive this week into different countries that are holding Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because El Salvador is pretty much the only company, or I keep saying company, the only country that is actually buying Bitcoin. All these other companies are either mining it. I said companies again, didn't I?
Yeah,
all these other countries are either mining it or they are seizing it, from different things. So
yeah,
El Salvador is still the only one that's actually buying actively. I think they buy 1 Bitcoin a week or something like that.
Oh, that's
or 1
cool.
a day.
Yeah.
They've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
Just stacking. This one was funny. I wanted to get your thoughts. So I saw this tweet and I almost thought it was a joke. It was tweeted out by Bitcoin Treasuries this week. And they said, West Main Self-Storage Company has committed to becoming, quote, the most valuable storage company in the world by adopting a Bitcoin Treasury, and they currently hold 0.43 BTC.
I respect it. Where are they? Where's West Main Self-Storage?
I don't know. I think that's all the marketing that they deserve.
That's so funny. I'm sure we'll see like a lot more like, companies in like different niches claiming that title, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I respect it,
I mean, you respect it, but what is the threshold where, like, 0.43 BTC for like a company? Like, what is the threshold where it actually becomes newsworthy or should become newsworthy? I don't think it's less than 1 BTC. I don't think so.
Yeah, we got to set that threshold. 1 BTC.
At least. Wanted to shout out a couple updates to dashboards. So our friends at Signal 21 actually launched their own Bitcoin Treasuries dashboard. I'm going to quickly try to share my screen here to demonstrate. So we got, a few Bitcoin Treasury companies here. We got Strategy, Marathon, MetaPlanet, Nakamoto, Semler, and ProCap. I was very excited to see the MNAV semler there, so we can see kind of how things are performing relative to their stock price, relative to how much Bitcoin they have. Semler, like, underperforming, for example, like Nakamoto seems like it's very much overperforming. One thing that I think it was last week, we talked about how I wish that Bitcoin Treasuries showed this, and they actually do. You just have to like sign up for a free account on the website. So if we jump over to Bitcoin Treasuries here and we scroll down, you can see like MNAV is a column that is listed here. So we can very easily see all these different companies, and how their stock performance is doing relative to their Bitcoin holdings. So
that's pretty cool.
Just wanted to share a couple dashboard related updates there, just because we are referencing these so often.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. Thanks for that. All right. Now we move into the industry news side of things. Yeah, I'm excited to hear this River report, and then maybe ask you a little bit about, I know you had this like cool tweet about how you use River and everything, and we can get into that in a little bit, but.
Totally. Yeah, I want to share this report that River published this week on business Bitcoin adoption. It's a really, really comprehensive report. We can't like talk about all of it on the show here. I would recommend everyone to go check it out and read through the PDF. There's a lot of really cool numbers in here, but there's a few things that kind of stood out to me. So they have identified 158 public companies with Bitcoin holdings currently. They also shared some of their own numbers. They said that 3,000 businesses are currently using River, and they have some, data about their customers that they shared out. Real estate is their highest sector. Roughly 15% of their business customers are like in real estate, which is pretty interesting. I thought for at first I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But then, thinking about like property and, like scarcity, right? Like that lines up with real estate pretty easily there. There's been a huge surge in business Bitcoin adoption after the US election in November 2024. You can see this graph here, the business Bitcoin holdings graph, and the one below it as well. In 2024, you saw 31 billion that was allocated, and you see that huge spike after October. And then it just really hasn't slowed down. You can see in 2025 so far, there's been 43.5 billion that businesses have allocated to their balance sheets in Bitcoin. Just a ton of stacking happening on the business side of things. Yeah, I'd urge everyone to go check out the report. It's pretty cool. But we can talk a little bit more about River as well. I am a River customer, I guess. I use
advocate. Well, yeah, I know that this is their report based on sort of like their own data, but it just made me think of sort of, you have like a stacking allocation strategy, and I don't know, I think it's always interesting to kind of like chat with people about how they stack, how they do it, what their flow is.
Yeah, I think for me, like the biggest thing with like dollar cost averaging Bitcoin is I want it to be like as fully, completely automated as possible. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have to touch anything. I just want to like literally set it and forget it. And I feel like I used to actually use Coinbase for this.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, they removed this feature. Basically, Coinbase actually allowed you to direct deposit into their account. So I could literally put in like put my paycheck, like account number, routing number. I could put like, however much, like a percentage of my paycheck in Bitcoin, and it would like literally buy Bitcoin for me, and it would be on Coinbase, and then I could withdraw it from there if I wanted to. And they removed that like direct deposit feature. Coinbase did. So since then, I was looking for like a more automated kind of solution, and came across River. And while you can't do direct deposit, that's the only thing that like River doesn't have. That's kind of on my wish list. It is a much more sort of self-custodial friendly solution.
Mm-hmm.
So basically I have like a purchase every like 2 weeks that goes into River, and then you can set a threshold. So when your Bitcoin balance goes over a certain threshold, it will automatically withdraw to a custodial wallet.
Mm-hmm.
So I can automatically have it withdraw to like cold storage. And again, I just don't have to think about it. Don't have to do anything. River also has this feature where you can deposit dollars, and you can earn interest on those dollars in Bitcoin rather than earning them just in more dollars. So I'm making use of that as well. So I have kind of like an emergency fund of cash in there that is accumulating interest in Bitcoin. And that's just like my current solution, and I thought that it would be interesting to share that out. So I tweeted
Very
about
cool.
it.
Do they have any kind of card associated with their product?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, they're just like a DCA kind of company at the moment.
I tried to sign up, but they're only available in the US, I believe.
Of course.
Yeah.
You have in Canada, there's a kind of an equivalent where you can like buy Bitcoin. It's like kind of like a DCA kind of like company. I forget the name of it. You probably
I'm not
know.
sure. I mean, the one I use is like the company I used to work for is ShakePay, and they have like a same thing as Coinbase. You auto deposit like your paycheck, and you can DCA that way.
It was like Bull Bitcoin, or it was
Bull
like
Bitcoin,
some
yeah.
name like that. Is that?
Bull Bitcoin is one, yeah. I've not actually used them, but they're like very committed
It
to
is
like
Bull
the
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin Maxi ethos, but they have like a very good setup for paying bills and auto buying Bitcoin. And I think it's kind of like a same flow, like it will send to cold storage after a certain threshold and everything. So there's definitely some equivalents for sure.
Yeah. So I guess US only for now. Hopefully they expand.
Drop me your referral link when they do.
Yeah. I know. I almost included the referral link, but I was like, no, I don't want to be like, I'm already like giving them some marketing for free. I don't want to shill too hard. But so I didn't include my referral link, so I kept it impartial. I was just like, yeah, I'm a happy customer, so I'm gonna tweet about it.
That's funny. Well, Americans must be happy about the next one.
Yes.
Polymarket's now able to operate in the US.
Yeah, moving on. So CFTC has granted Polymarket approval to operate in the US, which is huge for Polymarket. I thought this was very interesting. So Polymarket's growth lead, his name is William Legate. He had a very insightful tweet about this with the news. He was also on Kalshi, which was like before this news, the only like prediction market that was able to operate in the US. And he said, when I joined Kalshi a year ago today, their CEO, Tarek, made their mission clear. Copy everything Polymarket does. Our moat is regulatory capture. And today that moat no longer exists. So, I mean, he's just saying that, like, I don't know how true that actually is, but like, that's pretty crazy if that is true. And yeah, it just shows like, you like that can't be like your only selling point, at least, right? Like if that is the case, like if all they're competing on is just the fact that they're like available in the US,
yeah,
you can't compete on that type of stuff. You can't compete on features because somebody else will come along and adopt the same feature, right? You need to really find some ways to stand out. And Polymarket, I don't know, it certainly feels like much more of a household name in the US than Kalshi does.
Totally.
Even though they weren't even available.
Yeah, I know.
To be used in the US.
Yeah, totally. I remember, I think it was around the US election when there was some kind of DAO, Constitution DAO or something, where basically like they were accepting donations from people that were based in the US so they could bet on the US market, they could bet on the US election through them just because they couldn't access Polymarket. It was pretty funny. There were some like good workarounds, but this is going to be pretty huge. And like Polymarket's partnered with X somehow, and they've not really done anything since that announcement, but I imagine this would kind of explode that partnership
100%.
once they're fully operational.
Is Constitution DAO the same one that was trying to buy the Declaration of Independence?
Yeah, I think so. You gotta
and
love
they
it.
failed on that.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Declaration of Independence and maybe you thinking about certain movies, that's the segue into the next piece of news. There is a new Hollywood movie that is going to be coming out called Killing Satoshi. It's starring Casey Affleck and Pete Davidson, and it's set for a 2026 launch. And it's directed by Doug Liman, who directed The Bourne Identity and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So there's going to be like this huge blockbuster like movie about Bitcoin that's going to be coming out next year, which is pretty awesome.
This is pretty cool. Yeah, honestly, I am too. This is very cool. So it says the producer, Ryan Kavanagh, he said it's not just a movie about Bitcoin. It's not just a movie about Bitcoin and its elusive and mysterious origins, but it's really about what it stands for. We look at this film much the same way we did with The Social Network and its examination of Facebook. This should equally be a look into the world of what Bitcoin really is. That's an interesting take, and it's like, is this a Bitcoin lens from Hollywood, or is this like Bitcoin from the trenches? We'll have to see what like sort of they really get into.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's pretty bold to compare it to Social Network. That's like such a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, they say it's like marketed as a conspiracy thriller that looks to unravel one of the most enduring mysteries of the 21st century, the secret identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, and why the answer threatens the global power structure and an elite cabal's diabolical plans to make sure that the truth never surfaces. Yeah, I'm excited. We're gonna have to do like a live reaction, like live screening show in the future.
Totally. This is pretty funny. This one I just thought was pretty funny as well. I could have followed this up with the Polymarket one, but basically Gary Gensler's texts were erased during this like year period, and the SEC is blaming this on avoidable errors. So basically during the peak of the SEC's crackdown on crypto, and almost a full year of Gary Gensler's text messages have just disappeared from that period of a crackdown. So there's an internal report from the SEC saying it wasn't some grand conspiracy, but really just a series of avoidable errors. Not really sure what that means, but their IT team basically ran an automated wipe on his work phone that erased everything, like text, system logs, all of it. And because there was no proper backups, those messages are just gone forever.
Yeah. I saw a lot of people, rightfully so, very up in arms over this, because like it was the time that these text messages were happening was the time when like FTX was collapsing and like all this stuff was going down. Very crucial time for evidence potentially.
Yeah.
To be needed in these cases. And I saw another thing too about how I guess like just a few months prior to this happening, the SEC actually fined some other businesses for like bad record keeping. So it's just very, very ironic that they did this, I guess.
Yeah. There was also people saying like obviously some of the texts in there were tied to some of the cases, basically like enforcement cases against some of these crypto companies. And like obviously now we'll never know what was in those texts and maybe like what was the rationale for pursuing these companies. But oh my, anyway.
It's a new era in crypto.
Yeah.
We don't miss Gary.
Too funny.
Yeah. Well, I think that about wraps it up. I did just want to put in here, though, this is the last Good for Bitcoin before the Zealy STX DeFi campaign ends. So this time next week, we will be reflecting on the Zealy campaign that we have put a lot of work into.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, we're currently in season 5 of the campaign. Each season has been 2 weeks long, so combined with like a couple days in between each season, it's been almost 3 months that this has been going on. So ton of work, a lot of collaboration across all the different apps that are participating. There's like Leather, Xverse, Granite, Zest, Stacking DAO, Velar, Hermetica, Bitflow. I think that's everybody.
I think that is everybody.
Ton of collaborative work there. Really excited to, once the campaign is over, dive into a lot of the data and see actually how successful it was. And also see, a lot of these wallets we've already seen are like newer wallets.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be very interesting to see, if they stick around, right? And if they continue to use Stacks, or, if they stop. Like, either way, it's going to be very interesting to just dig into the data and really try to pick out what was successful and what was unsuccessful about it. I think there's no like immediate plans to do anything in the future, but I think we'll see a season 6 at some point.
I'm sure we will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Cool. Well,
thanks everyone for tuning in, and I hope you all have a good weekend. And
yeah. Thanks everybody. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. We record Good for Bitcoin live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on X. Please follow us at Trust Machines Co. if you would like to listen and engage with us live. Visit us at trustmachines.co for all the latest Bitcoin news. We'll see you next week.